Welcome to the Wing Space podcast, a place to take up space, a space for you to settle in, sit back, relax, and focus a little bit on health, wellness, faith, family, and this crazy thing called life.
This podcast is not a replacement for mental health treatment or professional health care. In case of crisis or emergency, please contact your local healthcare provider or dial 911.
Hey there, and welcome to the Wing Space podcast, a place to take up space. I am excited to have a guest with me on the podcast today, Kristen Wilson, who is one of our therapists here at Hope and Healing. So welcome, Kristen, to the podcast this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Now, Kristen, you have been on the podcast before when we have talked about some couples therapy type work. You are our couples therapist extraordinaire. But today we're going to take a little bit of a different turn in our conversation and talk about morning routines. And, if there's anybody listening thinking, oh gosh, they're going to talk about, getting up super early and all the things that we can accomplish. You're right, we are. But we're also going to share a little bit about why the morning is so important to each of us, and maybe some tips for someone who might want to start a morning routine. So I think I'll just let you get started, Kristen, if you want. Maybe just share a little bit about what your morning routine looks like now, and if there was like kind of a progression to get to where you are.
No, thank you for the wonderful intro. I will say this is not something I will share my morning routine now, but it has not always been Kristen's morning routine. I definitely have grown to an appreciation of it, but right now, roughly, I get up around 4:30. So when you were introing and talked about, getting up early, I was like, oh, it's definitely going to be my first thing.
Say it proudly. I get up at 4:30. You hesitated. It's okay. Embrace it.
I do. I get up at 4:30 and I got to be honest, I love it. It is rare for my house to be peaceful and quiet, but at 4:30 in the morning, it absolutely is. And so I get up at 4:30. I set my coffee pot the night before, so I'm able to sit down, have a peaceful cup of coffee. And I find that this is where I do most of my really starting my day off on the right foot. Peaceful is, definitely the word I stick with. I don't do a lot of high activity stuff with the exception of the last part of my routine is working out, but it really starts with sitting down in a comfortable space, having a cup of coffee, and engaging in something that I enjoy. So whether that be a podcast that I wanted to listen to, or a book I've been wanting to read some of, or sometimes I do my language learning app and try and squeeze some time in for that. So I don't do all of those things in one morning. I will pick one of those to do in the morning with my coffee and not feel rushed about it. That's a big part of it for me, is not feeling rushed. And then I do transition into getting a few things done I might need to get done, setting myself up for success for the day. If there's some aspects of the lunch I didn't get to get packed for the kiddos, or if there's, the laundry needs to be switched to the dryer or whatever, life holds at that moment. And then I get out the door and go for a workout with a group of people and a high energy sort of environment. And then I return home when my house is waking up. So I've really love being able to be so independent and being impactful in what my day starts.
Okay, quick little right turn that I wasn't anticipating. Language learning app?
I enjoy learning things that I don't have to be learning. I enjoy things that I do need to be learning as well, but I just like the idea of keeping up with some things that you are learning for interest rather than learning for necessity. So I am focusing on Spanish and trying to learn more of that for interest. It has never come to me naturally, so I am doing it at my own pace.
That's awesome. I actually started that during COVID. I think I downloaded one of the apps and it didn't stick. So maybe this is an invitation, a reminder for me to pull back that app, because every now and again I'll get an email from them saying, "Are you still there?" So, yeah, maybe. But so you and I had a conversation several months ago about morning routines, and I had, I guess, shared with you that I was dabbling with, what this morning was going to look like. And I am I am proud to say that I got up at 4:20 this morning.
Yay!
Um, and I, I guess probably because we were going to be recording this podcast, but also just because it was, I thought about how just peaceful and quiet it was. And I'll just share that my routine is flipped from yours. I wake up and work out first thing because I know if I sit too long in a comfy chair with a warm cup of coffee, it's just not going to happen. So I actually go downstairs into our basement. My husband built out an incredible space for me down there. So I go down there first and work out, and then I come up and make my coffee and sit down. And this morning I found myself with about an hour and 15 minutes after I worked out to be able to read the Bible, and I'm doing a little Bible study. And then I had some more time, and I was like, oh, I can read this book that I'm trying to finish for book club. And I would have to say that the word for me is as well that it was for you, which is peaceful, that it's just quiet. My kiddos are on the different a different spectrum than yours. You have little people, I have bigger people, but I still feel like there's rumblings in the house in a way that there is not at 4-ish something in the morning. And so it's interesting when my husband woke up a little after 6 and he comes in and makes his coffee and sits down, you can feel the what's it called, like the atmosphere in the space just kind of change a little bit, and then my time is over and it's kind of a sad panda moment. But I know that it all good things have to come to an end, right? The morning has to get going and the hustle and bustle of everything starts. So for you, how long have you been doing this kind of a morning routine, and how did it progress to be what it is now?
I think I've been doing this kind of morning routine for I would say a little over 2 years, probably. To be totally honest, my kids had the biggest impact on my morning routine. I can't even recall a time before kids and what my morning routine was like then, because it seems so long ago now. Like 10 years is a long time. But the biggest thing is for me, I recognized I needed some peace. And I think I went, sought it out in a lot of places and realized that the morning time was a time that I had more influence over than any other part of my day, just with different demands and needs in life and things like that. I think that one of the things that was a challenge at first for me for kind of like getting it rolling and being consistent with it was I was like, well, I'll start small and I'll get up a little earlier each day. But that didn't have like the payoff for me to be consistent with that. So, like, getting up 15 minutes early and like having a cup of coffee by myself was nice, but it wasn't nice enough or motivating enough for me to be consistent about it. But when I took the plunge and was like, well, if I got up an hour and a half earlier than everybody else, then I would have this like quiet 10 minutes for so long, like really being able to kind of push that out. And that's when it started being consistent for me. When I was giving myself enough time to really benefit from it, to look back and say, like, wow, I had my coffee and I finished up the lunches. And then it allowed me to be consistent with my workout routine too, which we all know the data makes us feel so good. So that was additional motivating bonus in that regard. So it really has, in some ways, like I knew I needed it long before I was able to get it started. But jumping in with 2 feet is what allowed me to eventually be consistent with it. I waver on how I use my time sometimes. Sometimes it's more self care, sometimes it's more getting things done, but always the quiet coffee time, always the working out time, things like that. Because honest, some weeks I am getting things done. The work I didn't get done from the day before, or just, the lunches you didn't quite prep or pack, or whatever's sitting there facing you. I do use that time sometimes, but I always find my way back to what my purpose is.
And you mentioned when you started smaller, you didn't see the benefits as you do now with it being a longer period of time. So just real quick, remind me, because you've told me, but let's tell our listeners, how long is it from the time you wake up until the time that your house starts to get moving in the morning?
2 hours,
2 hours. Okay. So your family starts moving around 6:30.
6:30. Yeah.
Okay. So when you were just adding, 15, 20 minutes at the beginning of that, you weren't noticing the benefits. What benefits do you notice now that you've been consistent with this particular 2-hour morning routine for so long?
There's some very concrete benefits like the workout or getting in a good routine with not feeling rushed when you wake up in the morning, trying to get the water bottles filled, the lunches, and that sort of stuff. The pressure is off in that regard. But the other thing I really notice is the presence I feel in the morning when my family does wake up. I am starting in a better place. So rather than sort of waking up and meeting my family wherever they were at, which was previously, my world, I am waking up determining my day, right? And then when the family wakes up, I'm meeting them with where I've already started rather than meeting them where they're at, which I mean, makes a lot of concrete sense, right? And we talk about circle of control and all these things. And so it really, really, really fits in with that. But when you're very tired, it's hard to think about that being the answer to some of it. And it's not the answer to all things, of course. But for me, it was very, very, very impactful. And certainly, I'm not saying everybody needs 2 hours, it's whatever's right for you and your family. But because I do like to go to the gym and work out with a group of people, there's a little commute time in there and things like that. But that I prioritize that because I really enjoy that and that community aspect of it too.
Yeah, I hear all of that, and I'm thinking back to the time when my kids were younger, and I was waking up usually like just enough time to like get my shower in, and then it was getting them up and getting them motivated, so I'm trying to get ready while they're getting ready. And looking back, it probably was a bit more hurried and harried than what it felt like at the time. At the time it was just what it was. And when my kids were littler, I worked out in the evening, and it was beautiful. 7:30 they were in their bath, they were in their bed by 8. I would work out, then I would get my shower, go to bed. It worked out beautifully. But once they started in youth sports, then sometimes we weren't getting home until 8:30, and it was like, okay, I got to find a different time to do this workout because the evening is not it. And so I've been working out in the morning for several years, probably 4 to 5 years. I've been working out in the morning. But it was that period of time where I started to notice that I needed some quiet for myself. I needed some time that I could dedicate to reading the Bible and prayer and reading a book and just drinking that warm cup of coffee. And I remember times when I would start the cup of coffee and then something would happen and I would forget it, and then I go back to it and it's cold, and who likes microwaved coffee? So yeah, I think for me, it happened with COVID when I started dabbling with the full morning routine, because I had a dedicated space that could be this place that I could sit and be quiet and kind of engage with the world the way that I wanted to, watching the sunrise over the backyard and things like that. And for me, I've noticed that I feel like there's something missing all day long when I don't have that morning routine. It's kind of like if you forget to put on your earrings or forget to put on your ring, and gosh, I feel like I'm not put together. That's what happens for me when I don't engage in that morning routine. I just feel like there's something missing. And I've tried. I didn't get my Bible reading in. I'm going to just bring it with me to work. And in the middle of the day, during lunch or something, I'll do it. But then it feels more like a check in the box rather than engaging in that full morning routine. So I too have found just being able to set myself up for the kind of day that I want to have is really, really important, not only for me, but for my family when they start to wake up. And another thing I've noticed too, again, with teenagers, it's a little bit different, but I found that if I got myself ready for the day and then got them up, I was like, come on, guys, let's go, let's go, let's go. Like I was more in tuned to what they were doing. Whereas now I have my quiet morning I make sure that they're awake, and then I go get myself ready. So I'm getting a shower, drying my hair, I'm getting ready while they're getting ready. So I'm not really paying attention to what they're doing. And it really adds a little bit more peace and calm into my day. So I want to switch gears just a slight bit and share with our listeners some thoughts that we might have about how they could begin a morning routine, how they can make that shift. But before we do, I want to just take a quick break so that we can share about some of our upcoming services at Hope and Healing. We'll be right back.
Are you a yogi in Southern Maryland looking for a place to practice on Thursday mornings? Look no further than Gentle Yoga with Lori Bruce at Hope and Healing in Leonardtown. A certified yoga therapist, Lori brings over 2 decades of yoga training and teaching to her classes. Gentle Yoga with Lori is suitable for all levels. Join us in person or tune in from home, as all Thursday morning classes will be available virtually. Space is limited, so reserve your spot today at loribruceyoga.com/schedule.
Welcome back to the Wing Space podcast. Kristen and I are talking about our morning routines, how they got to where they are, and why they're important to us. So for those listeners that are saying, okay, this sounds like a good idea, but how do I make that shift? What might be some thoughts you have, Kristen, about how someone could start to engage in a morning routine like this?
I think anyone who knows me knows the first words of my mouth are going to be plan for success, right? So I know I mentioned I like to prep my coffee pot the night before, or little things like that, but really deciding what amount of time is going to be impactful for you, right? Is it a half an hour because your priority is just to sit in quiet and, maybe meditate or reflect or whatever that looks like for you? Is it longer, right? Like more towards mine, where I'm trying to tackle a few things in that morning time. I'm planning for success in that regard. What are you hoping to do? If you want to, spend some time reading your book, it would be a good idea not to have forgotten it in your car and it's 5 a.m. and it's dark out and you have to go get it and that sort of thing. Is there a space in your house that lends itself to this, right? I luckily have like a cozy spot away from my kids' rooms where me moving around a little bit isn't going to disturb them at all. So what does it look like for you to be successful? And also, what are your goals? I rattled off some things that are my goals for enjoyment of that time, but what are your goals to enjoy that time? So just kind of planning for success, what that looks like for you. But also I do advocate allowing enough time for it to feel meaningful, because that's what's going to motivate you to be consistent with it. I would also say setting expectations. I know I am an enthusiastic person and I am very happily talking about my morning routine, but I don't want to give the impression that having a morning routine like this makes it so we still have hectic mornings when people don't want to eat their breakfast, or we forgot it was the day we had to bring back our library books and we're searching the house. And, all of those normal life things still occur. But my morning routine allows me to kind of approach it with having taken a deep breath before I react. And that's sort of how I think of it. I'm going to be a bit better at reacting to all the things that come in life if I am taking care of myself a bit, right? And so this for me very much checks a lot of those sort of like self-care boxes, because it's important to think about self-care not just broadly in the things that you like to do, but like as a daily thing. What does that look like? So planning for success, absolutely. Setting your expectations, deciding, how you want to use that time, what's important for you. And not comparing your routine to somebody else's routine. Your routine is just right for you at that moment in your life. If you just decide what your priorities are, and even if it looks different than somebody else's, take note of your success and see what's right for you.
Yeah, I love all of those thoughts, Kristen. And I was thinking when you mentioned leaving the car, the book in the car, I read a little bit before I went to bed last night. And so my book and my glasses were on my nightstand and I forgot to grab them when I left the bedroom. So after I had worked out, I, tiptoed back into the bedroom and tried to grab them. And I'm not sure if I disturbed my husband or not, but one of the things that has been so helpful for me is to set my clothes out the night before so that I don't have to rummage through my drawers with my flashlight on my phone to try to get my clothes so I'm not waking my husband up at, dark 30. So yeah, setting those clothes out the night before and having them ready. For me, because I work out first, I make sure that my water bottle is full, that my iPad is charged, whatever I might need to go down into the basement to do that workout is ready for me. And like you said, knowing what my expectation is. And there's certainly mornings that I know that I'm going to maybe be exploring what book I want to read next rather than just diving into a next book, or I want to, do a little bit of planning for an upcoming holiday or something. I know what the morning is going to look like the night before because we can kind of plan for that. I know when I talk about routines, and the listeners have heard me talk about routines before, we've talked about the bookends of the day, and the morning sets us up for the day and the evening kind of closes it all in, but then sets us up for the next day. So for some people, it might be, turning screens off a little earlier and getting into bed a little bit earlier so that they're getting a good night's sleep, because we certainly don't want people, falling into bed at midnight and then pushing themselves out at 4:30 so that they can have a morning routine. We want a good solid night's sleep with a good opportunity to kind of tidy up the day. Somebody told me the other day, it's the idea of putting the house to bed, right? Like you tidy things up, you put everything where it needs to be so that when you wake up the next morning, things are already put together. But for a morning routine, you're ready and you're set. Another thing you said was to make sure that you have a space in your house. So how did you determine that perfect space for you?
I just chose a space that if I was maybe folding a little bit of laundry or, honestly, my kids are still little. Wherever I can exist, that's not going to wake them up. It's the perfect space. I have like sleepers. I have an old house. Like it's just life at the moment. So that determined my perfect space. But also then making sure that it was somewhere comfortable. I'm not sitting in a closet. Like I'm on the couch and I'm enjoying the moment. I'm making sure it has everything I need. And I can turn on the lights so I can be kind of like fully awake and really feel like I'm starting my day, not keeping myself up. Because if you feel like you're keeping yourself up, it's kind of missing the goal of feeling like, okay, I'm getting off on the right foot. And just, I wanted to build on what you had said about putting the house to bed and things like that. If somebody texts me at 11 o'clock at night, I'm not answering that. I'm not even seeing that because I'm asleep because I wake up early. So there is a little bit of a shift because sleep, we all know is so important. But, even in those hard weeks when you might not feel capable of like wrapping up everything in your day you need to wrap up, but you need to get to bed so you can keep your routine. I try and ask myself, like, what would help future Kristen? Right. And if it's something that would help future Kristen to obviously like just do up those dishes so all the stuff is clean for tomorrow morning, that helps future Kristen. But it might be a day I put off packing the lunch to the next morning because I could do that while I listen to my podcast during my quiet time. And that is more right for future Kristen than staying up late tonight. And sort of, I like that phrase too, because it helps me keep in mind, again, my goal of that time is not to serve everybody else. It's to serve myself a little bit and to start so I can be more present for all the people that, I am in a caregiving space for at this moment.
Yeah. And I found too that on the weekends, I keep the same schedule, and it sounds a little, odd, we'll say, to wake up at, 4:30, 5 o'clock on the weekends when we're not getting ready for the day. But again, my husband typically gets up somewhere around 6:30, 7 o'clock, whether he's working or not as well. So if I can get up before he wakes up, then I have a few minutes to do, whatever it is, like you said, that needs to fill my cup. I was thinking about this idea that there's been times that I've picked my kids up from practice and they're like, "Mom, do you have any water? I'm so thirsty." And I'm like, "Well, where's your water bottle?" "Oh, I forgot it." Right. So here I am thirsty with my water bottle and they're chugging mine, which is fine. Right. I'll give you my water bottle any day. But my morning routine for me is like, not only am I drinking that water in, so to speak, but I'm also filling up my water bottle so I'm ready for whatever anybody needs when they wake up, because inevitably they're going to need something from us. And throughout the day, people are going to need things from us. So we have to start ready to go with whatever pops up. And I was also just thinking that even on the mornings that I don't work out, so I throw a rest day in there pretty regularly, even when I'm not getting up to work out, it's actually more of a cozy morning for me because I don't necessarily put workout clothes on. I just stay in my pajamas and I grab a nice warm blanket. And so I might have 2 cups of coffee that morning because I can sit and just enjoy that time a little bit more because there's not the workout before. So flexibility, right? Making it what it needs to be for us. Yeah. Any other thoughts about morning routines for our listeners?
Just maybe to highlight what you originally said, like my journey to get at my morning routine, your journey to get at your morning routine. It can be let me take that back. It's okay if it's a process, right? If you've cracked the code and you start day one with like a system that works for you, that's amazing. But if it is a journey and some missteps here and there, the goal that you're trying to hit is that it is the right fit for you. So just be kind to yourself as you're figuring it out and what works for you.
Yeah, giving ourselves grace and recognizing that if it doesn't look the way we want it to look today, we are blessed with tomorrow to try again and tweak it so that it does look the way that we want it to look and feel the way that we want it to feel, because that's really the idea, is that it sets us up to feel ready for the day. So awesome, Kristen. It was so good to chat with you this morning and to share our morning routines. Listeners, if you have ideas about morning routines, if you want to share yours, we'd love to hear. You can always email me, Jennifer@hopehealingtherapy.com. And as always, thanks for listening and have a great day.